Hello, this is Brett.
And Cindy.
Swafford Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to help me out?
I did. I said my name.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we decided to make a video about some information we want to give out, well, to everybody, but it's for our garden group too.
About plants.
About store-bought plants or
Somebody gives them to you.
plants grown by somebody else. How about that?
Yeah. If you didn't start the seed and you got a live plant, we got some info for you.
Well, it's for those that's bought plants from or given plants from other people and they're not doing well in the garden. They're showing bad signs after being transferred to the dirt.
They're hungry.
One of the things we figured out over the years, which I've got a lot of information from different people, but is what people start their plants with, you need to know what the fertilizer is. Because that's all they ever feed them, and you bring the plant home and you put it in your garden or your raised bed or whatever. You don't put the same fertilizer, that plant is suddenly missing something it's used to. It's hungry, or it's like a drug, it's missing its drug. And it will cause the plant to change colors, it will cause the plant to wilt or get very pitiful looking. Some of them even die right quick if they don't have it within a few days.
Well, if you think about it, you've totally changed its life. Its entire life, it had this one substance coming into its body.
Probably a liquid fertilizer of some kind.
And now it suddenly don't got it no more.
But it's a good thing to ask whoever you get your plants from, what was they fertilizing with, what was they giving them. Because most likely if they're growing a lot of plants, they've used some kind of spray or some kind of liquid fertilizer, foliar spray. They've got some way of feeding them. If you don't know what it is, or you know, mimic it by what you use in your garden, whether it's chemical or organic or no-till, you know, the plant's going to suffer. And we found out through several people lately that's been asking questions that there's a lot of people has some sick plants. And the quickest and the easiest way we thought to do this was a video. Best thing to do is go back to where you got them and find out what they fertilized, or ask, call, find some way to find out what was on them plants. And you might have to mimic it. You might have to, like a liquid fertilizer, you might have to use like Miracle Grow or the Dr. Schultz, or there's a Walmart brand. You don't want to continue feeding them this unless it's something you use all the time, but you can give them a small dose. If they perk back up, you probably own something. You probably found the right one, or if you know for sure. But you don't want to continue feeding it often. You want to wing them off of it. You want to wing them off to whatever you're using. If you're using granule fertilizer like 1515 or 61212, it takes a little while for it to break down. It won't turn into instant fertilizer like the liquid fertilizer does. Liquid fertilizer, of course, is ready for the plant to use, and it gets a large hit of it. Best way I don't put it.
Well,
So you got to feed them, wing them off of it, keep watering them, keep taking care of them, and feed them a little less of it next time, a little further apart, and slowly but surely stretch it out till they're not getting any of it. But keep the plant, you know, in good shape. You'll have to figure out how much it takes to keep it in shape, but you don't need to do a routine of it. It's got to be stretched out and cut down to the point you get it off of them. Yes, Miracle Grow and other fertilizers, I consider it like a drug. It's like meth or cocaine to a person. If they ever get it in their system, it's hard to ever get them to quit. The plants are the same way. They get used to it, they want it. When you take it away, they have bad problems. But you've got to work them off of it. Number two thought is, if you got plants from somebody that did not set them outside, you've got to harden the plants off, as they call it. They need to go outside in the sun before you plant them, a little at a time until they get used to the hot sun.
mm-hmm.
That will cause them to wilt and cause them to die off.
Put a fan on them too to give them used to the wind.
By the time they're big enough to plant, it's done too late for that. But they need to be used to the weather. They need to be outside, and you might have to start with just a few, an hour or 2 or 3, and pull the plants in, cool them off, put them back out the next day a little longer. If they're not used to being in the full sun, first time you plant them, they're probably going to wilt. They're going to start looking bad, and they'll stay in bad shape for several days if they make it, because the sun's just so hard on them. If they're grown in a greenhouse and never been outside, it will be hard on them. But you can harden them off. You just got to take your time and keep up with them and keep them watered good. The third idea would be watering. How much water you're giving a plant. Tomato plants, for the most part, can stand a lot of water. When I start my plants, when they get up good size, I bottom water the plants. I put the pots into a tray that holds water, and I'll fill the tray up before I go to work, and they'll leach the water all day. They can sit in water, and it won't hurt them. Some plants are sensitive to water. You pepper plants and things like that don't want to be soaked in water all day long. But if you put them in the garden and you water and water and water, you might be overwatering or you might be underwatering. They need a fair amount every day. If you can adjust and figure out what the plant needs. Because the ground's going to dry up if they're pulling a lot of water up. It's just, they're going to leach it out of the ground till it dries. If it's staying wet and muddy all the time, the plant's not looking good, you're probably overwatering. They should be like a season of dry and a season of wet, and not extremely dry, not extremely wet. It should be more of like a routine thing. That's where the routine idea comes in. Plants don't need a whole lot of water and then sit for 3 or 4 days and get none. They're going to have a lot of water. A lot of them wants to keep water constantly.
Right now, it's not got much choice. It rains every other day.
But right now, if you got ripe fruit like a tomato, it will bust a tomato or a cantaloupe, because it'll get an excessive amount of water right before it's ripe, and it'll cause it to bust. Excessive water on something like a tomato plant and humidity will create diseases on it. Your leaves around the ground will start dying off. They'll start changing colors, turning brown or yellow, and the limbs dying. You need to break them off and get them off of the plant, because it will climb the plant. It will eventually get the whole plant if you don't slow it down. I always break my limbs off of a tomato about 1 foot off the ground so they don't touch. That saves a lot of that trouble later when the limbs start dying and everything starts browning out. Number 4 could be, like Cindy was saying to me, insect problem, a bug problem, cutworms. Some plants attack down in the edge of the ground, some of them land on the leaves. Squash plants, you won't find the bugs hardly at all, but if you roll the leaves upside down, the little eggs or the small squash bugs will be on the bottom of the leaves. They run across the bottom. They lay their eggs on the bottom.
You gotta look close, and you might miss them. If you miss them, then it kills your plant.
If you don't want to spray, you can remove them by hand. Most bugs you can take off. Some of them gets too bad, you got to find something to take them off. There's organic bug killer, and there's the chemical version. It's your choice on that. Number 5, it kind of goes along with number 1 in a way. It's about fertilizer, but some people over fertilize. Some people put fertilizer in the ground, put their plant right on top of it, and it burns the roots. It really needs a buffer between most plants. Onions and garlic, about the only, or maybe corn at the most. The only thing I know, it takes a whole lot of fertilizer without hurting it. Some of your plants are very sensitive. If you change the least little thing, you can make them wilt or die. So I always put a little dirt between my fertilizer and plants, just in case. I mean, it's still going to get to it. Once the water gets to the fertilizer, it's going to leach to them. The roots will grow to it if it wants it. If not, they'll grow around it. But it gives them a chance to get some fertilizer without getting it all at one time. Chemical fertilizer does take a while to break down, like we were saying in number 1. It's a chemical process. It has to go through. It has to be converted to and changed to other chemicals, and it's a big long list. You'd have to just look it up online if you want to know all the little fine details how one turns into something else. But how one blends with another, and it just takes a while for it to break down. Organic fertilizer, same way. It won't. You don't get 100% of it as soon as you put it on the plant. It's going to get maybe a third of it, and then the rest of it's going to leach to it slowly. That's another reason why some people overload it, because they'll put fertilizer, and it takes it a while to kick in, but once it does, it might overload the plant. To me, it's better to put a little fertilizer 2 or 3 times than it is to add a whole lot of fertilizer and hope for the best. Just some thoughts we had about starting plants. I've had several questions over the last few days, and I thought, well, the easiest way I know to do it is make a video and put it out. But this is for the garden group, for anybody else. I hope this helps somebody. You got anything you want to add?
I don't know of anything else. You went over my head.
Okay. Well, you gave the analogy earlier, so about the plants and stuff. So I didn't know if you wanted to ad lib on anything else.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for watching. Have a good week.